What's up YouTube? We're back in the garage for our second installment in our two-part DIY cooling series. We attacked power steering in the first one. Now we're going to attack oil. Stay tuned. Alright, before we start, I want to thank the cool guys at Hayden Automotive for sponsoring parts of the build, mainly the heat exchanger and some fittings and fasteners. So we're going to build a do-it-yourself kit. Why build a do-it-yourself kit? When you buy a cookie cutter kit from, say, Perrin or Mishimoto, you're limited to what they offer you as far as routing and hardware. So you can't pretty much add whatever you want. With the do-it-yourself kit, you have the freedom to route it anywhere you want, mount it anywhere you want, and cut costs at the same time. I just want to make sure that I'm not liable for any damages to your car should you follow what I do. I'm just here to bring out info, and you're the one putting it together. Anyway, here is the parts. You'll need an oil cooler, the main part, which is a Hayden Automotive 777 model. It's from the Rapid Cool line, and it flows 5 gallons per minute with their turbulators. It's a 14-row cooler. It has 10 AN O-ring Boss end tanks. Right now I have a 10 AN O-ring Boss fitting, union fitting to a 10 AN male fitting. So you're going to need those. Make sure it has the O-ring Bosses in there. You can't just put double-sided union. You have to have the O-ring, otherwise you'll spring a leak. Next we have the fittings. These are Fragolas, black finish, twist lock in 5/8 to 10 AN. So these are barbs that cinch the hose down without using any sockets, hence they're socketless fittings. Next we have the oil hose, which is a Goodyear Instagrip hose, 5/8 in diameter. It's good for fuel and oil, flame resistant, and good up to 300 psi. I'm sorry. It's just a basic hose, does the job well, but if you want to upgrade to something else besides the usual braided steel line, we got this AeroQuip high pressure hose. It's 1300 psi max breast pressure, as well as high temperature rated. Next we have this fire sleeve, Pyroshield, whatever you call it. I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but it's also at my local hydraulic store. You can also buy those online. I believe Heat Shield Products sells these, but this is I want to say 7/8 or 3/4 inner diameter. Just as long as you make sure it fits nice and snug in there, it'll be totally fine. This has some fiberglass material in them. I don't know if you guys can see that. All right, and it has a silicone protection out there for protecting from heat. I want to say continuous up to 500 and up. Continuous. We have these Oetiker clamps that I've showed you from previous videos, from power steering to fuel. All this does is go over your hose, and you can pinch it with a clamp tool. This is slightly larger than the hose itself, because when you install a push lock fitting, it expands just like that, so you want that extra clearance for this clamp to go over, and you can cinch it down. I have all the links to these parts at the bottom when I'm done with this video. And we have the Mocal thermostatic oil cooler. I can't remember what the part number is, but I will include that as well. This is a thermostatic model which opens at a certain temperature, so it doesn't cool all the time. It helps with warming up your vehicle. Other miscellaneous stuff is some hose clamps, some ADO clamps, what you call it. We use this in the military or in the aircraft field. You can also find that online, Amazon, or your local hydraulic store. We got the brackets. I use aluminum, but this is also an example of the size I use. This is steel. This is a 1 inch by 1/8 thickness, and you can choose whatever metal you want for bracketry. I've already made some prior to this video. If you saw part 1 of the cooling upgrade series, you're going to see how I made these using paper and a vise with BFH. Alright, so we're going to start putting it together, but first we need to check up the car and remove the bumper. Alright, so I removed the bumper. It's fairly easy, just a bunch of pop clips and 10mm bolts. There's lots of videos on YouTube on how to remove it, so you can go ahead and watch that and then skip to this. Alright, so we got the bumper removed, like I said, and we're going to go through the methods of mounting this oil cooler. Now you can see that the power steering cooler takes place on the top, and we're going to focus around here. So 3 methods. First method is vertical, like this. So they all have pros and cons. This one being pro, being that it takes a lot of space. It's good for large oil coolers. What else? It bleeds oil, bleeds air out very well by having oil come up here, pushing the air out and coming out here. Also, pros are for draining. Once you drain the system, you drain your oil tank. Your oil pan. Everything is gravity fed, so it'll just fall down, and you have an empty system and a new system to replenish. So that's a good thing. The con is, look at the area. It's blocked by all of this. So you'll have nearly half or more of the surface area being blocked, and that's not very good. So that's that, vertical. The next method is horizontal with the fittings facing down. Alright, good thing about this is it drains good as you replenish your oil system. The bad thing is bleeding. So if you were to fill it up, air would just linger right about here. It'd be hard to bleed. You can't flip your car side to side to get all the air bubbles out. So you'd be stuck with that. So pros, drainage. Cons would be filling and bubbles up here. Now last is horizontal with the fittings on the top. Alright, so the pros are, I forgot to mention the pros for horizontal. You get better flow down here, as well as this one. The pros are also bleeding because as air fills it up, it's fucking jets, man, I swear to God. As oil makes its way across, the air will follow. So as the oil comes down, it's going to come up this way and be a good, nice filled up system. The trouble is, if you drain your oil, you'll have some oil, old oil left in the heat exchanger. And so lots of pros and cons, lots of things to think about to determine what style of mounting you want to do. So after discussing all 3 methods, the one I choose is this, horizontal with the fittings on the top. Reason being is I want to take advantage of the horizontal flow here because vertical blocks almost half. I don't want any bleeding issues, and you'll see that the fittings are up, the air will always flow upwards. And the only con is, yes, about draining the system. So there will be some oil in there. I run an AOS and I run quality oil filters, as well as I replace my oil so often, about 3,500 miles. So as long as you have those 3, you should have no problems with contaminated oil. However, your results may vary by where you live and how you drive your car, etc., etc. So many variables. Okay, so after we figure out our orientation, we got to figure out all the mounting points. Now, 2015 V8 chassis have a lot of mounting solutions. So what I found out is there's 4 places where I'm going to use. There's this 12mm bolt right here on the front support for the radiator. There's a 10mm nut section right here with a welded nut. And then there's a 10mm bolt here with a spare hole there I could use too. And then right here on the crash beam, there are lots of holes where you can utilize. Okay, we got 2 things out of the way. We got orientation and mounting. Now we got to figure out hose routing. So I have here a 90-degree push lock fitting and a 120-degree. You can also use 150-degree, which is a little bit tighter, but this does the job well, and you're going to see that. So when I bring it up, you can see I already made a L bracket right there for that 12. And if you look in here, there's that 90, and here's the 120. If that was a 90-degree, it would have went straight to that beam right there. You don't want to bend your hose more than you should because you're going to restrict the flow to the cooler, to and from. And that's it. So we're going to go 120 down there, 90. It's going to snake down here this way. So we're going to go in like that. It's going to come down this way around the front radiator support through here between the horn and the chassis, go straight there, and then go towards the exhaust manifold. Now, coming from up here, I'm gonna go under and hit 245s into the sandwich adapter. I'm gonna retain the OEM oil cooler only because it helps with warming the car up. So the other thing I was talking about with cookie cutter or pre-made kits from online is that the way they're routed, they're only routed for unequal length headers for the most part. So given that I have a equal length manifold which takes up a lot more space, and if you were to put the splash guard, there's about, I want to say, 1.5 inches or 2 inches of clearance between the manifold. So if you were to buy something that's pre-made, you'd have trouble routing it. You'd either have too much tension, or you'd have to get creative with how you route the lines. So making a custom kit, you can pretty much just do whatever you want. Okay, so here's my bracketry that I made just by using paper and a vise with a BFH. Big fucking hammer, for you guys don't know what BFH is. So I just mimicked it with paper and copied the bend, and all you gotta do is put on the vise and slam away. It's not that hard if you have the proper tools for it. But yeah, I made it from aluminum stock. This is what I figured out. So if you were to look at it, we'll get them mocked up here. You see that 12 goes there. This offset bar goes to that nut there. This L bracket with 2 holes. It's going to utilize that empty hole right there, as well as that 10mm bolt. There's this S bracket here that's going to be mounted on this angled area with the holes there, big enough for a 12mm. So I won't show you how to do it. I mean, it's pretty boring. So I'll just put this aside and then mess with the hoses. Alright, so we got 4 feet of this hose, so I'm gonna cut it in half. It's more than enough. It's always good to get more, just in case you mess things up or need more. Alright, so use this proper cutting tool, one that's sharp enough. Alright, nice and clean. Okay, if I take you to my workbench here, which doubles as a dryer, we can go ahead and do the hoses. So what you'll need is these Oticure clamps, hoses, hose ends of course, and hoses. Of course, this pinch tool and some lube of some sort. Spit works fine if you don't have it. So we're gonna do one end. So yeah, put as much as you want. Start slipping it on. Twisting motion is fine, just as long as it gets in there and goes all the way to the rubber stop. Okay, that's one of it. And if you have a coiled hose, all right, just pay attention to how it's going to be routed and how it's going to be oriented, because if you look at the natural bend, it's round, so it makes it easier if you were to take a look over here. Take you up. Part where to bring you here. All right, see the orientation? It's gonna go around like that. So being that the hose is pointed up, you want to, let me put you down here, turn it downwards. All right, and you'll see why. All right, so the oil cooler is gonna be mounted there. If I were to snake this hose down and around where I want to do it, all right, and it's going to go in there through that hole under the manifold. And if you could imagine, and this is hard doing one hand again, the way it's rounded up here, see that? I'm using the natural bend of the hose to get in there so it won't kink at all. So that's another thing you want to pay attention to when building a hose. All right, hopefully we got enough length. Okay, so we got one done here. Let's go ahead and do the other. We don't want to cinch it down yet because we don't know exactly how long it is and if we need to make any changes. So if it's short, if it's too short, we're gonna have to go to the hydraulic store, get some more, but we'll see how long this goes or how long this reaches. And once we figure out that we got a solid routing, then we'll go ahead and clamp it down, because these are just one-time use. You can't reuse them again. Let's go ahead and push this on same way, and then we're gonna try and mock it up again, see if our plans are gonna change or not. Okay, there's two already made. Okay, so instead of installed, I've loosely attached the mounting points. Alright, and this one there, I didn't put that one there, but here's the routing. So you want to test it with the mounts on, otherwise things will change once you tighten everything down. So the 90-degree line is going to go behind the heat exchanger. The 120-degree line is still going where we planned on. However, there was a chafe point right here, and I've said the 150-degree would have worked fine, but as long as this won't cut it, we got some rubber on there to prevent from chafing. And then here, also put some rubber here and there for it to go around. Okay, so this is still following this course from what we planned. Let me take you under. Alright, so the 120-degree bend is coming from right here from the side, and it has enough line to reach here. And then the 90-degree bend that goes behind the cooler also goes through where the radiator and condenser goes through. There's a little hole there. It's big enough for this. It won't chafe. Also make its way here. So if we were to step back, that's how it looks. This is going to come in a little closer, and we got more than enough hose to reach the cooler should we install it up there. Alright, so we're going to make some lines down here. First we need to remove this oil filter and install that Mocal sandwich adapter. Okay, so under here I've protected my equal length headers with some rags, just in case once we start the engine you don't want like a nice beautiful burnt smell coming from your hood. And of course got the pan. Let it come out. Let it leak on its own. Yeah. Okay, so we got our workspace there, open, let it drain more until it stops. Okay, it's about as good as it gets. And we've already lubed the O-ring. Let's borrow some of this old shit here. Put the sandwich adapter in. And let's see if we can clear it. Yep, she clears because the header right there. See that thermostat? So it's pretty close. We're gonna try to mess with it anyway. See what kind of routing we get. I'm gonna put the adapter on there. Alright, so we got about this much wiggle room before we hit the header. Let's see if we're to go that way. So this seems to be like the happy position. Okay, we'll take our hoses. Let's see how much length we have. We have a lot of length. We have way more than enough. That's good. Alright, so one's going to go here, and we're going to do our best not to touch the exhaust manifold. So I'm just going to somehow measure using these 45-degree hose ends. See if I can pre-position them. Get a good idea on how long I want them to be. You gotta be careful with these two because you don't want them to be stripped
once you get them stripped, or you got the flare in the off position, you could spring a leak. And speaking of leaks, these threads aren't meant to have any sort of sealant or Teflon. Alright, they seal themselves with the flares on the female and male side. Okay, so we got them pre-positioned kind of exactly how I want them. And so one is going to come like right here. Okay, and then the other one right here. So of course I got way too much hose, so I'm going to have to cut these and then make them to there. And by the way, this is 30-35 inch pounds, and it's a 1 inch deep socket. Alright, that's good. Okay, now we won't get leaked on. Let's focus on getting the hoses on now. Okay, so I already cut one line to fit right here. This is coming from the 120-degree hose end. So she's good to go. First things first is gotta take her off, because you don't want to twist the hose while it's on the sandwich adapter. You might mess up the flare here, so we're going to take it off. And then another thing is we're going to put this sleeve here. Alright, because once we put the fitting on, you'll have a hard time getting the hose end off. Alright, so we just want to slide this guy in. It's pretty tight. Okay, and it's got some fiberglass in it, like I said, so you gotta make sure you're well covered, otherwise you'll be scratching like a crackhead all day. Okay, so we got that off, and then we got our fitting. We're gonna apply some lube on the ends right here. Okay, just cut them out. Also, we need to get our Otiker clamp. So we're going to slip it on and put this guy on there. I'm going to spin her one more time. Get her to where we want her. Oops. And you got to be careful with these hose ends. Trick is to, once you get it bitten on, just give her a good shake. Slowly work the B-nut over the flare. That way you won't strip anything. You want it really straight, otherwise you mar the flare on both the male and female side, and you're gonna have a bad day once you start the engine. Okay, and if you want to finish it off, you use one of these. These are AN wrenches. See, you've got notches here in the corner so you don't mar or mushroom the ends. I'm just gonna temporarily install this. So right now there's some clearance right here. It doesn't look like it, but there is. And it's just touching the Pyroshield. We've got some slack here. Okay, so I'm just going to stop right here and then do the other one and see what we get. Alright, so I guess we're done mocking it up. Routing is really good. It's not really touching the header. And this is temp resistant, high temp resistant. Okay, as we move up, here's from under, going behind the radiator and condenser, and this is going around the edge of the splash guard. Shucks, I already tore this part, but oh, we'll fix that. See the routing from back there, as well as down here, and then right here. And then I also went ahead and put a bracket here, since there's a 12mm hole there with a thread. I put a bolt there with the L bracket, and I put this 8/0 clamp to keep it bent so it won't go crazy and go outwards here. You can see I put a spacer with a bolt, and it goes right around there and to the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is take everything apart, fill the oil cooler up with oil. You don't want to leave this empty, because once you start your engine, oil is going to go in here, and there won't be enough oil to get in your galleys. Next you know, you got a spun bearing or something, but you want to make sure this is filled with oil. Same way as you filling up your oil filter, you want to make sure that's all primed as well. So I'm going to put everything back and start the car up and see what we get. Make sure we don't get any leaks. Started her up. She's been running for quite some time. Oil pressure looks good. Temps are getting up there. Alright, got no leaks. Good thing. No leaks there either. Yeah, let's go under. No leaks. Got a little smoke going on here because I got some oil on the header. No biggie, it'll burn off. It smells good anyway. That's it. Oh, got some lint right there. So we'll see how this runs. The highest I've reached for oil is 230. We'll see how she handles, how she manages heat temperatures and stuff. Yeah, nice and warm. Fan's already doing its cooling cycle. Yet no leaks. Another thing to check is if you were to shut it down and make sure there's no leaks from there either. Took about 4 hours total. Would have been 2 if I hadn't been filming, but you know, sorry, I love you guys anyway. If you guys got the resources to do all this stuff, by all means do it. You save some cash, and you know, put money towards other things. You know, it's probably a couple $100 cheaper doing this route. Overall, my full total, I got the cooler for free. I can give you that. But if I were, even if I were to buy the cooler, it would have costed about $375 ish. If you were to count, you know, a couple pieces of hardware and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's about 300-ish, less than 400.
So yeah, it's up and running. I'll go ahead and put the bumper back on and test it out, see how it runs, see how much it cools, how much better it is, and yeah, I'll give you guys an update. But till then, peace.